Hello, my name is Helen Coxedge and I'm the subject leader for English at Windsor Girls School, and I'm going to talk to you about studying A-level English literature in the sixth form. I'd like to start with a question. What is your favourite novel or poem or play? This is a question that I think anyone keen on studying literature at A-level should be interested in answering. Even if you can't actually answer the question, it should be a question that interests you. And so it's a good indication of whether or not studying A-level literature is for you. I'd also like to clarify at this point that it is A-level English literature that we study. It's not A-level English language or a combination of literature and language, and that's important because there are a variety of options available at A-level, but we study literature here at Windsor Girls. So why study English literature? Well, first of all, and very importantly, it's a facilitating subject. This means that the skills covered in A-level English literature are considered by the universities to be crucial skills that can be used in any subject that you study at degree level. So they find it a very impressive subject, and one in which hones and develops the skills relevant for all future careers. Those communication skills, as I say, are relevant to many, many fields of work, but in particular media, the performing arts, law, teaching are subjects, careers that this subject is really, really good for studying. Okay, but thinking about the sort of person that you might be if A-level literature is going to be a good subject for you. Well, you're a sort of person that loves reading. This is so important. We study a minimum of 8 texts at A-level, so you've got to be a really keen reader. You need to be interested in people and how they communicate their ideas. You also need to be interested in how literature is relevant to historical and social developments. So thinking about, say, a novel like 1984, it had a particular relevance when it was written. It's got probably even more relevance today with its ideas about Big Brother and the big state. So it's thinking about how literature speaks to us across time. These sorts of ideas should be exciting for you, and you would love to talk about them in lessons. That's a key part of A-level literature studies. You need to love novels, plays and poems. So sort of person really interested in text, really interested in talking about them and all of the ideas that they generate. More practically, you need to have achieved 2 grade 6s at GCSE in English language and in English literature if you are to study this A-level course. Anything less than that and you will struggle to cope, so please bear that in mind. Okay, moving on. What skills will you need then? We've talked about what sort of a person you might be, but what skills will you need to study A-level literature? Firstly, you need to be a very fluent and coherent writer. This is why we need a grade 6 at English language. You do need to have a good basic level of writing. You need to be able to create and present an argument about a text, so that means both writing an argument and discussing and giving those arguments in verbal form as well. You need to be able to analyse texts very closely, to discuss the language choices made by writers and the way they've organised their ideas. You need to be able to engage critically with books, to think about what works particularly well in a book, maybe what's not so good, how the writers are putting their ideas together. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, you need to be thinking about the context of texts, when they were written, how they were informed by the time they were written, and what relevance they have to us today. You need to be able to compare texts too. How can 2 very different texts convey similar ideas, and what differences may there be in that? You need to have good independent study skills. There's an awful lot of independent reading required in this course, and to be able to manage your time successfully. And then finally, you need to be able to discuss things in class and not be afraid to share your ideas. We really sharpen up our ideas in discussion in A-level literature, so very, very important that you are keen on talking and discussing. Okay, moving on. Just a bit more practical information then. We study AQA English Literature Syllabus B at Windsor Girls, and you can find more information about the course if you visit the website. There's lots and lots of information on there. So what do we cover in our 2-year course? Well, in Year 12, we have a focus on tragedy for our paper 1, and all of the texts we study are tragic texts or consider tragedy. So we begin with Shakespeare, Othello. And then we have one modern drama, Death of a Salesman, and then poetry by John Keats. And we look at the way in which all three of those texts share similar tragic elements to them, or they may, the way in which they differ, but the focus is very much on tragedy. And that paper 1, is 40% of the whole course. In year 13, we have paper 2, which is a focus on social and political protest texts. So we're looking at the way texts question and protest against the societies in which they were written. And the books studied there are The Kite Runner, The Handmaid's Tale, and poetry by William Blake. And again, that's 40% of the course. And then finally, we have 2 independent coursework essays, which form 20% of the course. One on a prose text, one on a poetry text. This is very much seen as a link to university. You get to choose which prose text you study and which poetry text you study. We help you with that, of course, but you very much go off on your own and research that and write the essays for us. You also have to look at critical theory for this work, so it's about thinking about how a text might look to a feminist critic or a Marxist critic or an eco-critic. How might we respond to the text if we think about them from those particular lenses or through those particular lenses? As I say, universities really rate this part of our course very highly. It's exactly the kind of approach you would be taking were you studying on your own at university. So those are the 3 elements of the course: tragedy, social and political protest, and independent coursework. Of course, we also have extracurricular activities running alongside of that, trying where we can to see as many productions of our set texts, if possible, in the theatre. But also reading clubs and debate clubs have been run by our sixth formers before now, and always encouraging much more wider reading around the text. Okay, so if you are interested in this course but aren't sure about whether or not you'd like to study it, and you'd like to discuss this further with me, then please contact me by email. I'll be very happy to talk to you about that. Just a reminder again, my name is Helen Coxedge, and thank you very much for listening to this presentation.